What's up, guys? Tone Fernandez here with day 3. Over the past 2 days, we went over day 1, which was identifying your target market. Day 2 was how to approach and contact and build rapport. But today, guys, we're going to be talking about digging into the pain. And there's a few reasons why the pain is important. Number one, the pain it earns you the right to ask for the sale, right? It earns you the right. It gives you permission to proceed. We live in a world where there's a lot of marketers who proceed with, I was just dealing with this yesterday, actually. I had a guy and, me and him are having a conversation, and all of a sudden he starts sending me presentations of some company, and he just explain out of nowhere, he starts explaining his company to me, and I politely told him, hey, just curious, why are you sending me all this stuff? And he was kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm new to this. And I said, hey, no worries. I actually added him to the group. I told him I can teach you. And what the reason is when you uncover the pain properly and you equip yourself with enough questions to ask somebody, then it gives you permission to proceed, right? The second thing that it does is when you approach somebody online and you ask questions and you find the pain, if they back out because of whatever reason, they say, oh, I'm not interested or whatever, you can use the pain to overcome objections if you do get any. But more than likely, if you uncover the pain, you're going to get less objection. So it's important that, I'm excited about today because the whole point of today is really the power that glues everything together. It's the glue. It holds this whole philosophy together because, if I target the right people, then I'm going to get a chance of increasing my close rate. And then if you say, man, if I build right rapport, then I have a chance to make an offer. But if you find the pain, it almost gives you, it opens the door for you to make that offer. And this business is pretty simple, guys. He or she who makes the most offers every day wins, right? Because here's why. A lot of marketers, for some reason, do a lot of passive stuff. Their marketing is like, yeah, I do this here, I do this there. And can that get you a result? Yeah, every now and then somebody might see your post and say, oh, let me reach out to this person for their health product. Let me reach out to this person, for their weight loss, their travel, their real estate business. So they may reach out to you, but it's very passive, meaning you can't control what people do when they see your post, right? So you do want to have good posts. I always recommend that, but you can't control that. It's very passive. So how do you control? How do you control your business more is you make more offers. And if the permission to make an offer is the pain, then you got to become an expert at asking pain questions. You have to equip yourself with so many pain questions. Like if you were to drill, practice, and rehearse anything in your business, this is the number one thing you need to drill, practice, and rehearse. If you need to commit anything to memory and just get to the point in your network marketing career where you can recite, questions on the spot, whenever, however, that is what gonna make you lethal in this industry. So today, guys, I want to talk about some pain questions that you can ask. How can you segue into asking more pain questions so that you can get a little bit more personal, right? You can get a little bit more personal. So we went over building rapport. I gave you guys my method of how I survey people's profiles. And I gave you a few questions yesterday. But today, guys, we're going to go a little bit deeper into those pain questions. And, the first thing you have to do is once you build that rapport and once you're chatting with people, is there's always that awkward phase of, okay, how do I bring up the business, right? How do I bring up the business? This is the number one question asked. Like, when do I bring up the business? When do I bring up the business? Everybody always asks this question to me. Man, how soon? Or should I wait a week? Should I wait a month? And I say, it can happen as soon as a few minutes, or it can happen as soon as a few weeks. But the question to that answer is, how quick can you find the pain? So for you guys who are watching this, I want to give you guys, the same kind of recipe my mentor gave me when it came to finding the pain, right? And now that I'm, equipped with this, now that I'm immersed in this, now that I'm become a little bit more confident in this, it comes out naturally. So first, we're going to talk about, the opportunity. So for those of you out there who you say, you know what, my main objection or one of my objections that I want to do on social media is I want to recruit. So, you have to look at your business in terms of, okay, if I'm going to build an agency or build a business, what are the top paying questions that'll get me to a position where I can make an offer to my opportunity, right? To become a rep. The beauty about the network marketing industry, and I'll be honest with you guys who are watching this, the beauty is not in the sales. You can go sell anywhere. You can be a salesman in your current industry and make higher commissions anywhere. But what you can't do is build an agency in some of those companies with the ease of your network marketing company. So that's why building and recruiting is such a big thing. So we're going to start with building and recruiting some paying questions. So after you establish who your target market is, after you went in the inbox and you build genuine rapport, and you kind of, while you're building rapport, just to summarize what we went through yesterday, you find some genuine topics to talk about, right? You're not using common things that network marketers are saying. You're going to be genuine. You're going to look at their profile. You're going to say, hey, I noticed you live here. You're going to do all that. You're going to ask and tell. So you're going to ask questions. Oh, how long have you lived here? And you're going to tell about yourself. But here's where you start to segue into the paying questions. So, for example, when you survey, when you start asking people questions, the number one way that you can start talking to them about their your opportunity is you can say things like, hey, just curious, how long have you been at your current job, right? They're going to start, they're answering questions. How do you like your current job, right? So how long have you been there? How do you like it? What are some challenges that you're facing at your current position, right? The easiest way to talk about opportunities is finding pain at their job, right? So some questions that I'm going to give you that I ask is, do you see yourself moving up in your current company? Hey, do you see yourself moving up in that company, or you're going to stay where you're at? Right? And what you have to do at that point when you ask questions is you have to listen for tonality, because they're going to give you answers, but you're listening for tonality. You're like, and how they answer those questions, whether it be on text or voice message or however you're chatting with this person, you're listening and you're kind of looking at how they're answering the questions, right? And the reason being is sometimes people don't want to give you their pain up front altogether. So your goal is to kind of take a look at how they're answering their questions so you can take it a little bit further, right? So do you see yourself going further with that job? Is this the place where you intend to retire, right? So you have questions like, hey, how long have you been there? Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you see yourself moving up in the company? Now, I'm not saying you ask all these questions at once, but my goal for you guys is to get to a position inside of you naturally where these questions come up. And the reason being is this is what opens up the can of worms. This is what opens up where you can start talking about your opportunity. Even when you start looking at people's profiles, you'll start noticing, hey, I noticed that, you switched jobs recently. What was the change? Why did you switch jobs? And what ends up happening is people start telling you a story, right? People start telling you why they did something or what their motives are. And if you listen properly, then what ends up happening, it gives you permission to make that offer. So some questions about opportunity that I like to ask, hey, do you see yourself here the next 10, 15 years, right? If you weren't working at your job, what else would you be doing, right? Hey, man, if you didn't work there, what else would you do, right? One question that's very powerful that I like to ask is, hey, has your job gotten in the way of any of your goals? That's a very powerful one. Has your job gotten in the way of any of your goals? And the reason I asked that one is there was a time in my life where I wanted to do some things, but I couldn't because my job was in the way. My schedule, my 9 to 5. Yeah, how was your relationship with your boss? Hey, just curious, how's your relationship with your boss? They're going to say, it's all right. So your whole goal, the pain questions, is to open up some feelings and some emotions that your prospects have on social media, right? Hey, here's the number one question that I always ask people that, it gets them thinking about the future. Hey, with all that's going on with COVID, do you see yourself continuing working in your industry, right? With all that's going on. And the cool thing about that question is you can replace COVID, because it's not just COVID. There's a lot of things going on. Hey, well, what's going on with the advancement of technology? Do you see yourself at your job for so long? Hey, does do you feel job security at your job because, of what's going on with technology, right? This is a question that, I have a campaign on social media where I reach out to a lot of bankers. And the reason being is when I reach out to these bankers, I ask them a question stating, hey, I noticed that there's a lot of, banks who are replacing tellers with machines. Just curious, how is that impacting you? And what ends up happening is we start going back and forth, and then I get to uncover their pain, right? I'm going to give you an example. I was looking up tellers on social media the other day. I think it was on LinkedIn. And I had an individual who said, hey, he said, yeah, I'm scared because, these machines, these teller machines are replacing my jobs. And they're constantly, I constantly see new branches and new places where the machines are popping up. And then employees have a decision where they got to move to another department or they have to find another job. So I want to be ahead of the curve. And what ended up happening, he started telling me, so I'm looking at other career avenues. And then I was able to proceed with that conversation. So you got to understand that when you're looking at the pain of your client or the pain of your potential recruit, you have to take a look at different areas. Number one, what's their current situation? So you got to think in terms of how are they currently doing now? And here's why. Some are going to say I'm doing bad, like basically saying, man, with this COVID, man, with these jobs, being replaced with companies outsourcing, they're going to give you a current pain. But then some people won't. They'll say, oh, we're doing okay. We're doing fine. But you don't leave it there. Here's what you can do. You can start asking questions about current times and things to get them thinking, right? Here's why. A lot of times people won't uncover their pain right away. So you have to start guiding them and pushing them. So for example, this is a big reason why many of you guys have to start doing research and start, every morning, 15, 20 minutes. I did this even before I was in network marketing. I used to do this when I used to work at Verizon. I used to open up my news app and I would just survey some things. What's going on? And then when I had a conversation with somebody, I was able to bring up some current events. Now I look up current events that are painful to certain industries, right? I think about this. During COVID and still now, the hospitality industry is hurting a lot. So a good pain point question is, hey, how has this impacted you and your family, right? How has this recently impacted you guys? Hey, I noticed that Toys R Us is closing all over the country. Man, has that impacted you? So you got to look at a few things. What is their current situation? How are they currently dealing with it? But then you also got to look at current events, because sometimes you're going to have to get people thinking about their pain. You're going to have to kind of push them and nudge them, so to speak, a little bit to start thinking about that pain. So as a professional in this industry, what you got to do is you always have to prepare. And you always have to understand when you identify your target market, you already know their pain. So your target market is not just the people who buy your product, but who do you want to recruit, right? Who do you want on your team? Who is a demographic? What is a demographic that you say, you know what, this is my demographic? Because when you discover their pain, it gives you the ammo to ask all the questions that you want, so that when you're in the inbox and you build rapport, you can start shifting the conversation your way. So those are some questions that I constantly ask about, when it comes to recruiting individuals. I ask them those questions. Some other questions that you can ask that are pretty popular is, hey, are you on pace, to retire? Are you on pace to retire and stay retired? Hey, does your retirement strategy keep you up at night, right? And here's why that's a recruiting strategy, is because the number one reason why a lot of people can't retire is because they don't make enough money to save to put away for income. So your strategy of finding a pain, and by the way, if you look at the statistics, like I said, current events, the vast majority of Americans today don't have and won't have enough money to retire. And again, with current events, if you stay up to current events, alongside that, Social Security is at risk of depleting by 2030, right? So with these pain points that that are affecting millions of Americans, when you get in the inbox, it's easy for you to start a conversation about opportunity. if you can get their perspective on those current events. Hey, I was just reading an article, speaking of retirement, I was just reading an article that Social Security is depleting, man. Have you ever thought about what's going to happen with your Social Security? Have you been worried about that? Right? What happens is people start opening up about those specific topics, and then it allows you to make an offer. Hey, well, I don't know. This is what I'm doing. This is what me and my spouse are doing in order for us to get out of this situation. So it's important that you, number one, just find out their current status when asking these questions. How is this currently going? How is this current job? How is your current finances, right? And then the second thing is understand current events, because the current events are reinforced. They reinforce those pain points with what's going on. Hey, what's your take on this? That's the easiest nonchalant way to ask a pain point. Hey, man, I'm just curious. I noticed that you work here. What's your position, or what's your opinion on what's going on with the buyout, right? What's going on with, so many locations closing in your company? Hey, what's your opinion, or what are your thoughts on this? And here's what you're doing. You're gearing the conversation to figure out their pain point. And this is something that I do a lot on social media, especially when it comes to when I find out a company's closing, I write down and I put it next to my desk. And I say, this is a great conversation starter to have with individuals, because I can find their pain point. And when I find their pain point, it allows me permission to continue in the conversation so that I can eventually make that offer later on in that conversation. So if you get creative, you find, again, what their current situation is, and you start asking them questions about that pain, the next thing you want to do is reinforce that pain with current events that are going on. So it's important that when you know your target market, know how they're being impacted on different levels, right? Because when you can do that, the next thing you can do, which was number 3, is you can stack pain. I know some of you guys, but that's kind of mean. No, we're actually helping out a lot of people, just because, like yesterday, I gave you the analogy of the dog on the doornail, on the nail, who doesn't want to get up because he's not in enough pain. Well, sometimes we have to remind our prospects of their pain so that we can help them find a solution so that they can start getting the ball rolling. And here's why. There are individuals, when I first started this industry, who they were on my chicken list. I was too afraid to reach out to them. And then what ended up happening is later on, I saw that there was a pitfall that they were dealing with in life that I could have helped them with, right? I could have helped them make an extra $500 a month. I could have helped them make $1,000 a month, and that would have significantly changed their situation. But what happened was I was too scared to reach out to those people. I was too scared to bring up their pain. And then I realized sometimes those uncomfortable conversations about people's pains are worth it, because if you believe in what you do, then you know that you can help them, right? And by the way, if you don't believe in what you do, all of this is not going to work. If you don't believe that you can help somebody, save extra for retirement, if you don't believe that your opportunity is the best opportunity that can help them, then it's not going to work for you, because they're going to rely on your conviction when you're telling them this. They're going to rely on the moral authority that you have while you're saying these and while you're making these offers. So it's important to do those 3 things. Number 1, find out where they're currently at. And guys, when you understand the skeleton of pain questions, you can start coming up with so many pain questions, and you can start making a list of them, right? Hey, let me ask you a question, especially when you know your target market, because here's what you do. When you start to identify your target market, which I mentioned day 1, you start to understand them on different levels. Hey, I noticed that my target market is all in this type of industry, or most of them are. Let me study this industry a little bit more, right? Let me ask a few questions of people who are in this industry so I can find some pain. And this is something that I did even when I first started and I identified my target market. It was people in retail. My first target market ever was people in retail. Why? I spent 10 years in retail. I can tell you 1,000,001 pains that we had in retail. So when I reached out to my target market, guess what? I'll say, hey, man, noticed you're in this industry, build awesome rapport. Man, I used to work here, here, and here. How long have you been there? And then the pain questions would come because I did my research and I knew, that the pains myself. Hey, man, how are inventory days going? You must love inventory, knowing darn well that retail people hate inventory days. Hey, how are those black? Do you guys still have blackout periods that you're, when you're that you can't request for vacation? Oh yeah, I hate it, man. I can't request from, November to January 15th because of the holidays, and I wish I could spend more time with my families. And hey, man, how are those weekends going, man, where you got to work 3 weekends in a row? How do you guys still do that? I know that they still do that, but I'm asking because I'm uncovering a pain and I want them to get uncomfortable. So when you start to hone in on your target market and you start to just find every pain you can think of, you start to notate those pains, and you don't state those pains to those people. You don't tell them, hey, I know that you guys deal with this. No, you ask them in questions, right? Hey, how is this going? And here's why. When you ask pain questions, people open up like a book. And then to reinforce that question, man, you care, and then you dig deeper, right? Man, I totally understand. I'm so sorry dealing with it. So how has that impacted you with your relationship with your family? You start reinforcing it with 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 layered deep questions to get so deep on that pain that by the time you make an offer, their gut is like, man, I need to do something immediately. I need to do something right now. So when it comes to the opportunity, recruiting people for your network marketing business, the number one thing that you guys got to do is you guys got to, number one, know the biggest pains that your target market is dealing with. Know those pains so much that when you ask questions about it, you're not asking because you're wondering if they're dealing with the pain. You already know that they're dealing with that pain, but you just want to bring it up to them right in their face and say, hey, what are you doing to solve this problem that I know you hate you're dealing with? So those are questions that you can ask on the opportunity side, right? Again, number one is make sure you find out what their current state is. Number two, do some research. What are some current events that are going on in the news, either dealing with their finances or dealing with their job or their industry, right? Their finance, their job, and their industry, where you can ask questions about. Hey, I noticed people in this industry, for example, a few months ago, I was talking to a lot of nurses because I noticed that their pensions were removed, and I wanted to learn about that. So I'll say, hey, I noticed that your industry was removing pensions. What are you guys doing about that? And what ended up happening is a lot of nurses opened up and they were explaining it to me, and I was able to get layers deep on their pain. And I was able to say, hey, if I'm able to show you a solution to creating more income so you can save for retirement, how would that help you? How would that serve you? So the number one thing for opportunity is understand those 3 concepts. And then the other thing to reinforce it is when you can stack pain on people, right? What I mean by that is if you can ask somebody a question about their current situation and then you can add on to it by saying, yes, I saw this in the news as well, then it has them thinking, wow, there's multiple reasons now why I should be taking a look at other opportunities. There's multiple reasons why I should be taking a look at making a move to do something else, right? And then now you're separating yourself from the rookie network marketer because you did your research. You know what you're talking about. You're talking about current topics. You know their industry so well that you almost become like a consultant to them, right? Man, you're being empathetic. You're asking more questions. And then eventually what I'm going to get into is where you make the offer. So that's how you do it on the opportunity side. Now, network marketing has so many products and services nowadays that, it's hard to cover all of them when it comes to the product side, right? Like, how do I uncover the pain questions for my product or my service? And I'm going to give you just a simple framework. And this framework is pretty simple. It's how do you talk to your potential client's soul? Now, the issue that we see when people talk about the product or service that they offer, they always go one layer deep. They always talk about just what the product does, right? And what the product does, it solves a general problem that a lot of people have. But the issue with that is that general problem is so surface level that it doesn't touch the emotions or talk to the soul of your target market or your potential client. So one of the frameworks that we use in my course is we go 2 layers deep, right? So what that means is there's secondary problems that your product or service solves. And I'm going to throw some examples out there so that you guys can start understanding. The first problem is, for example, let's start off with my industry, right? I'm a life insurance agent. So the first problem that my product solves is if somebody dies, their family gets the money. But that's so surface level, right? And that's why a lot of life insurance agents fail in marketing, because they don't touch the emotions. Like, people don't attach the money to anything, so they can't think of, they can't get their potential clients emotional enough to buy from them, right? So what you got to do is, for example, as a life insurance agent, one layer deep, I go and I talk about, what is the problem I solve. People get money if you pass away that they can use. But the second layer deep would be talking about, okay, what is that money specifically used for? So then I can start hitting emotional buttons in my client and pain questions with them. Hey, just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if something were to happen to you, is your family going to stay in this beautiful home, in your beautiful home that you got for them? Right? Now they're tying the money to a pain that they could potentially have in the future, or they want to cover. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, or hey, sir, hey, just curious, if something were to happen to you, who's going to pay for college for your children? So I'm asking pain questions that I'm tying them in to dig deep into that. So now my potential client is thinking, oh crap, I don't have a plan for that. I don't have a plan if something were to happen to me. How am I going to pay? My family's going to pay for this, this, and this. So you got to take it 2 layers deep. So I take what I would do is and I'm going to give you other examples, but in my industry, I'm thinking, okay, life insurance gives you money, a paycheck to do X, Y, and Z. Now, the second layer deep is I just list all the X, Y, and Z's, and those are my questions, right? And I start looking at my target market, and I say, okay, my target market is families between this and this age, but what would they do with that money, and why would they need that money? Well, that money will pay for income, that'll pay for food, that'll pay for housing, it'll pay for all these things, and those are the pain points that I can ask my client or a potential prospect that I'm talking to on my target market on social media. Hey, I'm glad you got your fire. Just curious, who is going to take care of your family in case something were to happen? Are they financially, good in case something happens? And now my potential client is thinking, oh, wait, no, actually, no, I don't know. Wait, what is your plan to solve that problem? Now I'm going layers deep into the, my product, and they're thinking, man, I don't. So by the time I go into the position where I make an offer, they're so emotional. They're so ready to make a decision that they're giving me permission. They're saying, yes, please help me with this. And a lot of times before I even get, several layers deep, they're asking me, well, what are my options? This happens to me all the time. Even before I make the offer, they're asking me, well, what are my options? Like, what should I do? Because I took a consultative approach and I decided to do my research and I decided to go 2 layers deep into what my product does. It allows me to talk and ask better questions to my target market about their pain. So let's take another example and let's go to the health and wellness industry, right? The health and wellness industry, right? You take your, your keto and your Herbalife and your ACN, your Amway, whatever it is, and you take your product and you lose weight, right? And that's how most people promote it. Well, if I'm talking to somebody and I want them to become my client, losing weight is such a general term that why would I just talk about that? So then I go 2 layers deep. Why do people want to lose weight? What are some pain points that I can ask? Hey, I noticed that, you're on a health regimen. What is the main reason you want to, get in shape? Right? Hey, has health affected, some of your daily activities? Hey, have you ever thought about, being around longer for your family? Have you ever thought about giving yourself the best health? They're going to say, yeah, I was just, and this is a big one, by the way, if you're in health and wellness, a lot of people want to get healthy because they want to be around long term for their kids and for their family. So when you uncover and you ask those questions, hey, have you ever thought about, making sure that, you focus on increasing your energy so that you can have more time, for your busy schedule? Hey, have you had problems with this, and this? I'm asking questions that are uncovering pains of my potential client. And some of them can be even basic questions. Hey, what are some of the health challenges that you're facing? Because I see that, you have a busy schedule. Hey, what are some of the things that you're dealing with, as far as your energy? Because I see you running around all the time. What happens is when you ask the right questions, your target market starts to answer it. And when they answer it, they're uncovering more and more pain that you can make a solution for, right? And I'm going to go into the offer part, but today I just want to drown you with so many pain questions and pain ideas and pain concepts that when you go out there today and you start implementing this, you're just so well versed in this that what you noticed and you see pain on your timeline, that you know how to respond to it. You know how to ask more questions, right? So, when it comes to health and wellness, take it a few layers deep and write down, okay, what are some questions that I can ask people about their health and wellness to uncover pain? Hey, have you ever plateaued when you worked out? Hey, have you ever had and dealt with that joint pain? Hey, are you ever dealing, have you ever had an issue with trying to stay in shape, but your schedule's just too busy, right? People are going to start telling, yeah, that's exactly what I'm dealing with. And they're going to say, man, and they're going to start telling you their whole story. Man, I work 3 jobs and I can't, work out, and my kids, blah, blah, blah. And they say, hey, so what have you been trying to do? Man, I've been trying to do this meal prep, and I've been trying to do that and trying to do this. And you're just writing down all this pain or memorizing it so that you can make your offer. Let's talk about another popular industry, skincare, right? Skincare. So if the number one problem that, skincare products solve is they make you look better, right? You look better, right? And then you take it 2 layers deep. Well, what does looking better do for people? And in our society, it does a lot. And here's why. When you look better, you feel more confident, right? When you have skin conditions and sometimes they're really bad, it can kill your self-esteem, right? It can make you feel like you're not even, your self-worth can go down. I've seen people deal with it. Make you not photogenic, make you less social because you don't want to go out there and show your skin. It make you, and this is really deep. I've seen people suffer from their skin issues to the point where their attitude, their character is so down, and they're just like, get away from me, and they're negative at work, and they don't get the promotion. Like, I'm taking this deep. And some questions that you can ask. Let's say you're connecting with your target market online. You're in a network marketing skincare company, and you start inboxing people. And what you can ask people is, hey, just curious, man, have you ever had any challenges when it came to making sure you look good? Hey, have you ever had issues with acne in your profession? Right? I had a guy one time. He messaged me and he said, hey, I noticed you're in front of the camera a lot. He's like, me and my wife have a skincare business. Is there anything we can help you to improve your appearance online? And I was like, well, I was like, well, that was very thoughtful, right? And I was thinking, yeah, I got these dark circles, man. What do you got? He opened me up. He knew my pain, right? So, my point there is when you ask the right questions that lead to, or that get you deeper into somebody's pain, you have all the permission in the world to make an offer. And I'm going to give you guys my recipe for making good offers. But the other thing is when you ask these pain questions, most of the time people won't even let you finish. They'll say, hey, what options do you think you have? What are some recommendations that you can give me? And this is when you know you're getting better and better, when they stop you and say, hey, what's out there? What are some things you can recommend for me? And here's why this is important. This whole philosophy is based off you being, and you're going to hear me say this word, you're going to get tired of it. It's a consultative consultant approach, meaning that when you approach them, you seem super cool. This is what I went over yesterday. If you want to rewatch the video, you were super genuine and you're building your rapport. You didn't pitch, you didn't make an offer, right? Which would have killed the deal from the beginning. And then you start asking good questions that they were like dealing with because you did your research and you knew. And then by that point, they said, wow, this guy, this person, this guy, girl, they're coming to me like they're almost like a consultative, right? They're consultative approach. And here's why this philosophy works. People don't want to be sold, but they want to buy, right? So with you understanding that and hearing that statement, you, in your head as a network marketer, what you got to say is people don't want to be pitched. They want to be recommended. They want to be suggested. I hope that makes sense, right? What I mean by that is people would rather you approach them like, hey, man, I have this suggestion based off what you were telling me, man. Like, you can't fit in your jeans and your clothes don't fit. Hey, listen, I got this product that it worked for me. If you want some more details about it, I can suggest it to you. I can recommend it to you, right? As opposed to what do we do before is we say, hey, man, I have this awesome product that'll help you lose weight. It has this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient, this ingredient. Oh, my God, it's from the Amazon rainforest. 30 layers deep underneath the Amazon, there was this root they found in this root, right? This guy messaged me something similar to that the other day. And we all have been there. But my point is getting you away from the pitching, salesy approach to a consultative approach that can work. This works with any industry. If you are if you're in real estate, instead of saying, hey, these are the list of homes I have, Well, you can start having a conversation with people. Hey, what are some of the roadblocks that you have with purchasing a home? Hey, what are some things that, are you working with a real estate agent? Yeah. What are some things that you wish they would do better? Right? What are some things that I can do as give you a second opinion? And what happens, they're going to uncover pain. Well, hey, but he was late on giving me this, and she was late on giving me that, and she only shows me houses there. So then that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, well, if I were to show you, give you the solution that you're looking for, would that be helpful? So when you go and you show that you care, right? They say people don't care what you know, they care that they care about how much you care. That's so much the truth. And how you show them you care is by asking the right questions. And when you know your target market, you've built good rapport with them, and you did your research on their pain, it allows you to ask the questions that speak to their soul, right? It speaks directly to them. So the first thing you have to understand, and I mentioned this on day one, is know how this product helped you, right? Number two is know how this product is the secondary problem that it solves. And then number three, know how your target market and your audience speaks, right? Like every morning they wake up and they have an argument with their significant other, or they say something every day that, they're pissed out about. Well, when you uncover and you do your research and you know those pains, it allows you to ask questions. Imagine this, you wake up every day and you're like, man, I freaking can't stand this house. I want to move, and, I can't wait to buy a house, but, I got all this stuff and I'm just overwhelmed. And imagine that later on that day, it was you, the real estate agent, who went in the inbox and said, hey man, listen, if you're having issues with purchasing a home, or are there any questions that I can have with you purchasing a new home, and you maybe want to move on, let me know. Or hey, are there any questions that you have in regards to purchasing a new home, or are there any struggles that you're dealing with? And then they start to open up into pain, and that guy is probably thinking, dang, I was talking about this earlier today. I woke up cursing out my current apartment because of the fact that, this, and this. So when you speak to those pains and you ask questions to those pains, your target market starts to say, okay, I want to respond. Okay, what more do you have? And then that wall, because, the number one thing that we all have to do is we have to drop that wall that people have when we approach them, right? They have this wall. You don't see it, right? Especially the new people. New people don't see it because they don't understand the kind of the language that people have when they're closed off. So your whole goal is to build that rapport, ask those questions to get that wall to come down to where they ask you for your services, or you can make your your recommendation or your offer without it sounding weird and being so natural. And there's so many other industries out there. I have a friend who does travel. And he said, Tone, I don't know any pains about travel. I said, yes, you do. I was like, why did you flock to this company, this network marketing travel company? And he started, naming a few things. Well, they give you discounted rates. And, before when I used to travel, it was so confusing on what to do in the itinerary. And I said, those are your pain questions, right? When you approach people in their inbox, you can ask them a question. Hey, just curious, has a budget ever been an issue when you're traveling? People will tell you, yeah, sometimes I want to go to Europe, I want to go here, but I can't afford it. Hey, if I were able to show you a way where you can afford those trips. Hey, let me ask you a question. I know you love taking trips and you say you take trips. Have you ever thought, like, man, it's so confusing to find out what to do once I get to those cities? Yeah, hey, listen, I don't know I don't know if it's, you're interested, but this program that I use gives me an itinerary, has a limo guy waiting for me outside. So when you speak to those pains, it gives you the permission to proceed in that conversation. You just have to know those 2-layer deep problems that your client is dealing with, so that you can start talking and asking questions according to that. And here's what happens. Not only will it help you on the inbox when you're talking to people, because it helps you steer the conversation to what you want to talk about, but it also helps you in your content. It also helps you in your marketing. It also helps you in your door, your prospecting when you're out and about. And this is a concept that when you go deep into it and you learn it and you become an expert at it, what ends up happening is this is embedded in you, and everywhere that you go, these questions are going to come right out. If you're walking into a Walgreens and you say, hey, how you doing? How have you guys been dealing with this COVID? You're checking out, you're getting your stuff. Oh man, it's been crazy here. Well, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to stay here, or are you looking to write it out, or are you looking to do something else? No, man, I hate it here, man. It's crazy. Well, listen, man, I gotta run. But if I were able to probably help you transition to a place that's safer and get away from this craziness, would that be helpful to you? Cool. Listen, give me your number. We'll connect. So it helps you in every aspect when you take this approach. It's in your marketing. It's in how you approach people. It's in your conversations when you're on in social media and you're approaching individuals that you just built rapport with. And it allows you to keep this theme going, right? Once you find the pain, it increases your conversion rate. Meaning that once you find that pain and compared to, I'll give you an example. I do cold messaging on LinkedIn still, right? It's every now and then because it's a career website, meaning that there's people looking for opportunities. So it's one of the only platforms I still do cold messaging on, where I message like 20 people a day. And the conversion is very low, right? But I still do it just to throw out some messages. And then when I look at the conversion on the other end of the individuals that I built rapport with, and I started asking questions about their pain, the conversion was 10 times higher when I looked at the data. So for you guys who are watching this on day 3, take some of those questions in the format that I gave you and start formulating questions that you can start asking people. What I recommend today is create a top 25 questionnaire for both your opportunity, take some of mine if you want, and both your product that you have ready to go, so that when you start inboxing people, those questions are in front of you all the time so that you can start steering the conversation. Don't commit it to memory. Go create it. And here's what's going to happen. Once you create it, you can now duplicate that amongst your team and train your team on that, which is the more powerful part. So appreciate you guys for tuning in day 3. Day 4, I'm going to go more in detail on that offer, how to make a good offer, and what are some mechanisms you can do so that you can close people more, and some tips and tricks that I've been using to convert people who are on the fence and like, I'll do it today, I'll do it tomorrow, and how to eliminate the suspects from the prospects. So appreciate you guys. As always, your success is important to me.